Deputies! Remove him, now!
My speaking time hasn't expired.
Now!
The chair says I still have time.
I said stop talking. State the rule, and I'll follow it. You follow my order. Move! Stop challenging my authority. Then tell me what I did wrong. Get him up.
Before they act, name the law I broke.
Deputies, do your job.
Deputies, remove him. Sheriff Daniel Mercer's voice cut through the county hearing room so sharply that even the low hum of the air conditioning seemed to disappear. Marcus Reed stood alone in the center aisle, 6 feet from the public microphone, his folder resting on the edge of an empty chair. He did not raise his voice. He did not move toward anyone. His hands remained open and visible at his sides as 3 deputies approached from different corners of the room. Deputy Sarah Collins reached him first. Deputy James Holloway stopped slightly behind her. Deputy Evan Brooks came from the rear doors. Around them, nearly 70 residents sat frozen beneath fluorescent lights, some holding meeting agendas, others staring over reading glasses or lowered phones. Mercer stood beside the county commissioner's table with one hand resting against the wooden rail. I gave you an order, he said. Remove him now. Collins looked at Marcus. Marcus looked back at her. There was no challenge in his eyes, only a steady question she could not ignore. I am not resisting anything, he said quietly. Mercer stepped closer. Do not engage him. Escort him out. Collins's hand moved slightly, then stopped before reaching Marcus. Holloway watched her. Brooks glanced toward Mercer. A red light still glowed on the microphone beside Marcus, and the digital timer above the podium showed 42 seconds remaining. Nobody seemed willing to look at it except Collins. Deputy, Mercer said. Now. Marcus slowly placed both hands in front of him where everyone could see them. The room had become so quiet that someone shifting in a chair near the back sounded unusually loud. Collins took one controlled breath. Her eyes moved from Marcus to the timer, then toward the meeting chair, then back to Mercer. Sheriff, she said carefully, what violation are we enforcing? A murmur traveled through the room. Mercer's expression hardened. That is not your concern right now. Collins remained where she was. I need to know what I am enforcing. Mercer stared at her. You are enforcing my order. Marcus said nothing. That silence seemed to make Mercer more impatient. Collins. His voice dropped. Do your job. Marcus's fingers tightened once, then relaxed. He had spent years learning that tension could spread faster than reason if someone fed it. He would not feed it. He looked toward Holloway, who was studying the floor between Marcus and Collins as though an invisible line had appeared there. Brooks stood near the aisle, uncertain whether to advance. Mercer pointed toward the exit. This meeting will continue when he is gone. Marcus finally spoke. My speaking time has not expired. Mercer turned toward him. You are finished. Marcus glanced at the glowing timer. 36 seconds remained. Several people followed his eyes. Collins noticed them noticing. Mercer did too. Deputies, he said again, louder this time. Remove him. Collins's shoulders lowered slightly. She looked directly at Marcus. He did not ask for help. He did not mention his military service. He did not claim status or demand special treatment. He simply stood there, waiting to see whether the people given authority in that room would use it because a rule had been broken or because one man wanted obedience. Collins looked at Holloway. Something passed between them without words. Then she moved, not toward Marcus, backward. One deliberate step. The heel of her shoe touched the polished tile with a soft click that seemed to echo through the entire room. Holloway stared at her for half a second. Then he stepped back too. Brooks looked at Mercer, then at Marcus, then at the timer still counting down. He took one step back. Mercer froze. 3 deputies now stood farther from Marcus than they had moments earlier. No one cheered. No one spoke. Marcus remained in the aisle, his hands still visible, while Mercer stared at his own deputies as if the room had suddenly stopped obeying the rules he believed belonged to him. Before we continue, if you enjoy powerful stories that reveal the strength of the human spirit and the choices that shape our lives, subscribe to Narralight. Every story has a lesson, every choice has a consequence, and sometimes the smallest moment changes everything. Now, let's see what happens next. 43 minutes earlier, Marcus Reed walked through the glass entrance of the county administration building with a thin folder tucked beneath his arm and no expectation that anyone would remember him by the end of the evening. Outside, late afternoon lights stretched across the parking lot, turning rows of windshields gold. Inside, the lobby smelled faintly of floor polish and old paper. A security officer directed visitors toward a folding table where county employees checked names against the public hearing list. Marcus waited quietly behind an elderly couple, then gave his name when his turn came. Public comment? The clerk asked. Yes, ma'am. She found his registration and handed him a numbered speaker card. Marcus thanked her and moved toward the hearing room. A small veteran pin attached to the corner of his folder caught the overhead light, but Marcus did not wear it as an announcement. Inside were printed pages from the county's public budget records, meeting minutes, and several figures he had highlighted the night before at his kitchen table. The issue was simple enough to ask about, even if the answer might not be. Money had been approved for a veteran housing assistance program. According to the county's own published records, part of that money had not yet reached the services described in the original allocation. Marcus wanted to know why. He entered the hearing room and chose a seat in the third row, close enough to hear clearly, but far enough from the commissioner's table to avoid becoming the center of attention. Residents filtered in around him. Some carried handwritten notes. Others whispered about property taxes, road repairs, and zoning permits. At the side of the room, Sheriff Daniel Mercer spoke with 3 deputies assigned to maintain order during the meeting. Marcus noticed him only briefly. Mercer noticed Marcus for longer. Their eyes met across the room for less than 2 seconds. Marcus gave a polite nod. Mercer did not return it. Instead, his gaze dropped toward Marcus's folder before moving away. Marcus thought nothing of it. He opened the agenda and found the public comment section. Deputy Sarah Collins walked along the aisle, checking that the exits remained clear. When she passed Marcus, he moved his folder farther onto his lap so it would not extend into the walkway. Thank you, Collins said. Of course. Near the rear doors, Deputy James Holloway and Deputy Evan Brooks spoke quietly while residents continued arriving. Nothing about the room felt threatening. It felt ordinary, almost dull, exactly what Marcus expected from local government. At 6 o'clock, the meeting chair called the hearing to order. The first speaker complained loudly about a drainage project and continued several seconds beyond the allotted time before being reminded to finish. The second criticized a proposed development, pointing toward the commissioners while speaking in an angry voice. Mercer watched from the side but did not intervene. Marcus noticed that only because he was studying how the public comment rules were being applied. Each speaker received 3 minutes. A digital timer above the microphone counted backward in bright red numbers. When someone exceeded the limit, the meeting chair gave a warning. That seemed clear enough. Marcus rested one hand on his folder. He had spent much of his adult life in environments where rules mattered because everyone needed to understand where the boundaries were. He did not expect special treatment. He expected consistency. For more residents spoke. One raised his voice. Another interrupted a commissioner twice. Neither was removed. Then the clerk called, Marcus Reed. Marcus stood, buttoned the folder beneath his arm, and walked toward the microphone. As he passed the side wall, he felt Mercer's eyes following him. Marcus placed his papers on the podium and waited until the timer reset to 3 minutes. Good evening, he began. I am here about the Veteran Housing Assistance Allocation approved last fiscal year. Several commissioners looked down at their packets. Marcus turned one page. The published budget shows the amount authorized. The quarterly report shows a smaller amount reaching the listed programs. He paused and looked toward the panel. I would like to understand the difference. Across the room, Mercer shifted his stance. Marcus had spoken for less than 30 seconds, but the sheriff was already watching him differently now. Marcus kept his voice measured and his eyes on the commissioners. The original allocation was $480,000, he said. The most recent quarterly report accounts for $312,000 in direct program spending. I am asking where the remaining authorized funds are currently assigned. A commissioner near the center adjusted her glasses and began turning through a packet. The meeting chair leaned toward his microphone. Mr. Reed, are you suggesting the funds are missing? No, sir. Marcus shook his head once. I am saying the public documents do not make the difference clear. I am asking for clarification. That distinction mattered to him. He had not come carrying accusations. He had come carrying numbers. Behind the commissioners, a projector displayed the county seal, while the digital timer continued counting down. 2 minutes and 14 seconds remained. Marcus turned another page. The January minutes also state that the housing assistance expansion would begin during the second quarter. According to the published service report, the number of participating households did not increase during that period. I would like to know whether implementation was delayed or whether the allocation changed. A chair scraped softly somewhere behind him. Marcus heard footsteps approaching from the side. Sheriff Mercer stopped several feet from the microphone. "Wrap it up," he said. Marcus glanced at the timer. 1 minute and 48 seconds remained. He looked back toward the meeting chair. "I still have time." Mercer folded his arms. "You have made your point." Marcus did not turn toward him fully. "I am addressing the board." A quiet murmur passed through the audience. Mercer stepped closer. "And I am telling you to finish." Marcus felt the old instinct to measure the room before reacting. It was not fear. It was discipline. He noticed Collins standing near the center aisle, watching. Holloway remained near the rear doors. Brooks had stopped speaking with a county employee and was looking toward the podium. Marcus lowered his eyes to his notes. "My final question concerns the amended expenditure schedule." "That is enough," Mercer said. Marcus stopped. The timer showed 1 minute and 29 seconds. For several seconds, nobody spoke. The meeting chair looked from Marcus to Mercer, but did not immediately intervene. Marcus remembered the first speaker exceeding his time. He remembered the man who had pointed at commissioners while raising his voice. He remembered Mercer standing silently through both moments. Marcus had done neither. He had read figures from public records and asked where the difference had been assigned. He looked at Mercer now. "Sheriff, have I violated a meeting rule?" Mercer's expression tightened. "You have been asked to conclude." "By you." Marcus kept his tone even. "I am asking whether the chair has ended my time." The meeting chair shifted behind the desk. "Sheriff, he does appear to have time remaining." Mercer looked toward him. Something changed in his face, subtle but unmistakable. What had begun as an interruption was becoming a test of authority. "This is becoming disruptive," Mercer said. Marcus glanced around the room. Nobody was speaking except them. "I am standing at the microphone during my assigned time. You are arguing with security. I asked what rule I violated." Mercer took another step toward the podium. "You need to understand when you are being told to stop." Marcus felt the words land differently from the procedural language that had governed every speaker before him. He looked at the timer. 57 seconds. Then at Mercer. "I understand instructions very well." His voice remained quiet. "I also understand that rules should mean the same thing for everyone." Collins's eyes shifted toward Mercer. Holloway straightened near the doors. Marcus turned back toward the commissioners and touched one finger to the final highlighted line in his folder. "I have one question left. Was the remaining allocation transferred, delayed, or reassigned?" One commissioner leaned toward her microphone as if preparing to answer. Mercer spoke first. "Sit down, Mr. Reed." Marcus slowly turned his head. The timer continued counting. 46 seconds. "My time has not expired." Mercer stepped into the open space beside the podium. "I am not going to tell you again." Marcus looked toward the meeting chair. "May I have the rules stated for the record?" The room fell completely silent. The silence after Marcus asked for the rule felt heavier than any argument. The digital timer above the microphone continued counting down. 43 seconds. 42. 41. Sheriff Daniel Mercer looked toward the meeting chair, apparently expecting him to end the exchange. Instead, the chair leaned toward his microphone. "Mr. Reed still has time remaining under the public comment policy." A few residents shifted in their seats. Mercer kept his eyes on Marcus. "This is not about the timer anymore." Marcus rested one hand beside his open folder. "Then what is it about?" Mercer stepped closer to the podium. "It is about maintaining order." Marcus glanced across the quiet room. No one was shouting. No one was interrupting. "What part of my conduct is disorderly?" Mercer did not answer immediately. Behind Marcus, Deputy Sarah Collins watched the exchange with growing concern. She had been present for every speaker that evening. She had heard raised voices, interruptions, and angry complaints. Marcus had done none of those things. Deputy James Holloway seemed to be making the same calculation near the rear doors. Mercer pointed toward Marcus's seat. "Sit down." Marcus looked at the timer. 31 seconds. "My time has not expired." "I am telling you it has." The chair just said otherwise. A soft murmur moved through the audience. Mercer turned toward them. Everyone remained quiet. The murmur stopped. Marcus could feel dozens of eyes on him, but he kept his attention on Mercer. He knew how quickly a disagreement could become something else when pride entered the room. He also knew that raising his voice would give Mercer exactly the justification he seemed to be searching for. Marcus lowered his tone instead. "Sheriff, I am not refusing a lawful meeting rule. I am asking which rule you believe I violated." Mercer stared at him. "You are challenging my authority in a public meeting." Marcus paused. There it was. Not disruption. Not a threat. Not an expired timer. Authority. Asking for the rule is not challenging authority, Marcus said. It is asking authority to explain itself. Collins's eyes moved toward Mercer. The meeting chair cleared his throat. "Sheriff, perhaps we should allow Mr. Reed to finish his remaining time." Mercer turned sharply toward the commissioner's table. "He has turned this hearing into a confrontation." Marcus looked at the timer. 22 seconds. "I asked one budget question, and you were told to stop. By someone who does not control public comment time." Mercer took a slow breath. His expression became still. "Mr. Reed, return to your seat." Marcus looked toward the chair. "Do you want me to stop speaking?" The chair hesitated, caught between procedure and the sheriff standing beside the podium. That hesitation changed the room. Marcus saw it. Collins saw it. Mercer saw it too. "This is exactly the problem," Mercer said. "You keep pushing." Marcus closed the folder halfway. "I came here for an answer about public funds. And now you are disrupting county business by asking where the money was assigned." Mercer stepped away from the podium and looked toward Collins. "Deputy Collins." She straightened. "Sir, come here." Collins walked toward the front, stopping several feet from Marcus. Mercer motioned toward him. "Escort Mr. Reed back to his seat." Collins looked at the timer. 14 seconds remained. Then she looked at the meeting chair. "Is his public comment period being terminated?" Mercer answered before the chair could. "I am terminating this disruption." Collins did not move. Marcus slowly closed his folder and placed it on the edge of the empty chair beside the podium. The small veteran pin on its corner caught the fluorescent light. Mercer noticed it for the first time, but Marcus offered no explanation. He did not mention his service. He did not ask to be treated differently because of it. He simply placed both hands where everyone could see them. "Deputy Collins," Marcus said quietly, "I will follow any rule you can state for me." Mercer looked at her. "You do not need to explain anything to him." Collins's expression tightened. Holloway had begun walking forward from the rear doors. Brooks followed from the opposite aisle. The timer reached 9 seconds. Mercer pointed toward Marcus. "Take him away from the microphone." Collins remained still. Marcus looked directly at her and spoke softly enough that Mercer had to lean forward to hear him. "Before you do this, ask him what law I broke." Mercer's face hardened. "You take orders from me, Deputy." Collins looked from Marcus to Mercer. The timer reached 5 seconds, but suddenly nobody in the room was watching the clock anymore. "Before we continue, if you enjoy inspiring stories about courage, second chances, and people who choose kindness when it matters most, subscribe to Narralight. Our stories remind us that one decision, one voice, or one act of compassion can change a life forever. Now, let's see what happened next. The timer reached 0 with a soft electronic tone, but no one moved. Marcus remained beside the microphone with his hands visible, his closed folder resting on the chair beside him. Collins stood several feet away, caught between the sheriff's command and the question Marcus had placed in front of her. Mercer broke the silence first. "His time is over now. Escort him out." Collins looked at the meeting chair. "Sir, is Mr. Reed being removed for exceeding his speaking time?" The chair hesitated. "His time has expired, but that alone would normally mean returning to his seat." Mercer stepped forward. "He refused repeated instructions." "He questioned your instructions," Collins said carefully. "That is not the same thing." Mercer stared at her. Holloway reached the front aisle and stopped beside Collins. Brooks arrived a moment later. The three deputies formed a loose line several feet from Marcus, but none reached toward him. Marcus could hear the air conditioning again. Somewhere near the back, a pen clicked once and then stopped. Mercer lowered his voice. "Collins, I am not debating this with you in front of a room full of people. Neither am I, Sheriff. I need the basis for the removal." Mercer looked toward Holloway. "You understand the order." Holloway glanced at Marcus, then at the commissioners. "I understand what you said." Then carry it out. Holloway did not move. Mercer turned to Brooks. Deputy. Brooks swallowed. Sir, was there a threat made? No one said anything about a threat. Did he refuse to leave after the meeting chair ordered him out? Mercer said nothing. The meeting chair leaned toward his microphone. For clarity, I have not ordered Mr. Reed removed from the building. A quiet ripple moved through the audience. Mercer turned toward the chair. You are making this harder than it needs to be. Marcus finally spoke. Sheriff, I will return to my seat if the chair says my speaking time is finished. Mercer faced him. This is beyond your speaking time. Then tell me what it is about. The question was quiet, but it reached every corner of the room. Mercer stepped closer. It is about your refusal to follow direction. Marcus looked at him steadily. A direction to stop speaking before my time expired. A direction from the sheriff. That does not answer the question. Collins inhaled slowly. Mercer pointed toward the exit. Deputies, remove him. Marcus did not move. He did not reach for his folder. He simply looked at Collins. Before you act, he said, I am asking you to know what you are acting on. Mercer shook his head. Stop talking to my deputies. Collins's expression changed at the word my. Holloway noticed it too. Sheriff, Collins said, if we remove someone from a public hearing, I need an articulable reason for the report. Your reason is insubordination. Collins looked toward Marcus. He is not your employee. Several residents exchanged glances. Mercer seemed to realize how the word had sounded only after it was already in the room. His conduct is obstructing the meeting. Brooks looked around at the silent audience. How? Mercer turned toward him. Excuse me. Brooks kept his voice respectful. What specific conduct is obstructing the meeting right now? Mercer stared at all three deputies. The authority in his posture remained, but something beneath it had begun to strain. I should not have to explain basic crowd control to experienced officers. Holloway answered quietly. You should not. But this is one man standing beside a microphone. Marcus felt every eye in the room shifting between them. He did not feel victorious. He felt exposed. He knew that one wrong movement or one sharp sentence could change how the moment was understood. So he stayed still. Mercer looked at Collins again. Last time. Escort him out. Collins took one step toward Marcus. Holloway followed. Brooks moved from the opposite side. For a moment, it appeared the order would finally be carried out. Marcus looked at Collins as she came within several feet of him. His voice was barely above a whisper. You heard everything I said. Collins stopped. Her eyes moved toward the red timer now sitting at 0, then toward the meeting chair, then back to Mercer. Yes, she said. I did. Mercer pointed toward the doors. Then do your job. Collins stood perfectly still. Holloway watched her. Brooks waited. The entire room seemed balanced on the next movement she would make. Collins held Mercer's gaze for several seconds. The room seemed to shrink around the space between them. Marcus could hear the faint buzz of the ceiling lights and the soft movement of air through the vents. Nobody in the audience spoke. Nobody needed to. Collins looked once more toward the meeting chair. Sheriff, what violation are we enforcing? Mercer answered immediately. I already told you. He is disrupting the meeting. Collins glanced at Marcus, who remained beside the microphone with both hands visible. What specific conduct constitutes the disruption? Mercer's expression tightened. Deputy, you have been given a lawful order. I am asking for the basis so I can document it accurately. You can document that he refused my instructions. Holloway spoke from beside her. The first instruction came while his speaking time was still running. Mercer turned toward him. Stay out of this, Holloway. Holloway's posture remained respectful. I am part of this, sir. You ordered all three of us to remove him. Mercer looked from Holloway to Brooks. Does anyone here remember who is responsible for security? Brooks answered carefully. Yes, Sheriff. Then why are we having this conversation? Brooks looked toward Marcus's closed folder, then toward the meeting chair. Because I do not know what lawful meeting rule requires us to remove him from the building. Mercer took a slow breath. You are not county council. No, sir. Then stop pretending you are. Marcus watched Collins's face. She was not angry. That mattered. Anger would have made the moment easier to dismiss. What he saw instead was concentration, the expression of someone separating a command from the responsibility attached to carrying it out. Mercer pointed toward Marcus again. Remove him. Collins looked at the sheriff. I cannot identify a violation that justifies removing him from the building based on what I personally observed. Mercer stared at her. Are you refusing an order? Collins chose her words carefully. I am asking for clarification before I act. You have your clarification. No, sir. I have the order. The distinction landed quietly. Marcus felt something shift through the room. Holloway looked at Collins, then toward Mercer. The meeting chair lowered his eyes to the policy binder in front of him. Mercer stepped closer to the deputies. This is not complicated. He challenged instructions, delayed the meeting, and refused to sit down when directed. Marcus spoke without raising his voice. The chair never directed me to sit down. Mercer turned sharply. I am not speaking to you. Marcus nodded once and became silent again. Collins looked toward the commissioner's table. Chairman, did Mr. Reed violate a stated public comment rule before the sheriff ordered us forward? The chair opened the binder and scanned a page. Not that I observed. Mercer shook his head. Unbelievable. Holloway's eyes dropped briefly to the polished tile. Then he moved. One step backward. His shoe made a small sound against the floor. Mercer looked at him. Brooks watched Holloway, then Collins. Collins took one deliberate step back from Marcus. Brooks followed. 3 deputies now stood farther away than they had seconds earlier. No one celebrated. No one applauded. The movement was too serious for that. Mercer looked at each of them as though waiting for someone to reconsider. Step forward, he said. None did. Marcus remained still. The distance between him and the deputies was only a few feet, but it suddenly carried the weight of a decision. Mercer lowered his voice. Collins, think carefully about what you are doing. I am, sir. Holloway. Holloway met his eyes. So am I. Brooks nodded once. Mercer looked toward the audience and seemed to become aware of every face watching him. Marcus finally reached for his folder, but only to keep it from sliding off the chair. The veteran pin caught the light again. Mercer noticed it. Collins did too. Marcus closed his hand around the folder and looked toward the meeting chair. I came here for an answer, he said. Nothing more. Before anyone could respond, a woman seated beside the commissioners leaned toward her microphone. She had remained silent throughout the confrontation. A thick county policy binder opened before her. Sheriff Mercer, she said, I am county counsel. Before anyone leaves this room, I think we need to review exactly what just happened. The county counsel's voice changed the room without rising above conversational volume. Mercer turned toward her. Marcus remained beside the microphone, his folder held loosely against his side. Collins, Holloway, and Brooks stayed where they had stepped back, neither advancing nor leaving their positions. The meeting is temporarily recessed, the chair announced. He tapped the microphone switch, and the red light went dark. No one in the audience stood. The county council closed the policy binder halfway. Sheriff, I want the official recording preserved exactly as it is. Mercer folded his arms. For what purpose? Because there is now a disagreement about whether county procedure supported the removal you ordered. There was a disruption. That is your position. We will document it. She looked toward Marcus. Mr. Reed, please remain available. Do not leave yet. Marcus nodded. Yes, ma'am. Mercer glanced at the folder in Marcus's hand. Maybe we should also ask why he came here prepared to create a scene. Marcus looked down at the papers. I came prepared to ask a budget question. You expect us to believe that is all? Marcus opened the folder and placed it on the podium. You do not have to believe me. These are public records. The county council approached and stopped beside the microphone. Marcus turned the folder toward her. There were no secret photographs, private messages, or hidden investigative documents. Only printed county budgets, quarterly expenditure reports, meeting minutes, and highlighted figures available to anyone willing to search for them. She studied the first page. Where did you get this? The county website. Mercer stepped closer. What exactly are you alleging? Marcus looked at him. Nothing. Mercer frowned. You have spent this entire meeting implying money disappeared. No. I asked where it was assigned. Marcus tapped the highlighted figures. Those are different statements. The county council turned another page. Her expression became more focused. This number here, $168,000. Is this the difference you were asking about? Yes, ma'am. The authorization and the quarterly program expenditure do not reconcile in the public report. She examined the next sheet. There could be several administrative explanations. I assumed there could be. You did not contact anyone before tonight? I sent 2 written questions to the county finance office. I received acknowledgments, but no substantive answer. Mercer stared at Marcus. So you came here to expose somebody. Marcus shook his head. I came here because this is the public meeting where residents are allowed to ask questions. The county council looked toward the commissioners. One of them had begun comparing Marcus's pages with the packet in front of him. These figures should be reviewed, she said. Mercer gave a short, impatient breath. And that has what to do with his behavior. Collins answered before Marcus could. Nothing, Sheriff. That is the point. Mercer looked at her. Collins continued carefully. Whatever those numbers mean, we did not know when you ordered us forward. We only knew what happened in this room. Holloway nodded. And what happened in this room is on the official recording. The county council looked toward a small camera mounted high on the rear wall. Audio and video. The clerk answered from her desk. Both. Preserve them. Mercer shifted his weight. You are treating me like I am under investigation. I am preserving a public record, the council replied. No conclusion has been reached about anyone. Marcus appreciated the precision. Facts first. Conclusions later. It was the same principle he had tried to follow when reading the budget. The council returned to the folder. Mr. Reed, are you connected to any investigation involving these funds? No. Are you representing anyone who is? No. Were you accusing Sheriff Mercer of involvement? Marcus looked directly at Mercer. I did not know Sheriff Mercer had any connection to this issue, and I still do not know that he does. The answer seemed to surprise Mercer more than an accusation would have. For the first time, his expression lost its certainty. Then why keep pushing the question? He asked. Marcus looked at the silent microphone. Because nobody answered it. The county council closed the folder. The budget issue and what happened here tonight are separate matters. They will stay separate until facts say otherwise. She turned toward the meeting chair. I recommend we resume public comment and give Mr. Reed the time he lost before the interruption. Mercer looked at the three deputies. None of them moved toward Marcus. The chair reached for the microphone switch, but the county council raised one hand. One more thing. She looked at Mercer. Before this meeting continues, I need you to state for the record the specific rule you believed authorized removing Mr. Reed from the building. Mercer stared at the dark microphone as the entire room waited for his answer. Mercer stared at the silent microphone for several seconds before answering. The public comment policy allows security to intervene when conduct interferes with the orderly operation of a meeting. The county council opened the policy binder again. Yes. What specific conduct did you believe met that standard? Mercer looked toward Marcus. He refused repeated directions. Marcus remained quiet. Collins watched Mercer carefully. The council turned one page. The policy gives the meeting chair authority over public comment time. It gives security authority to address safety concerns and actual disruptions. Chairman, had you determined that Mr. Reed was disrupting the meeting before Sheriff Mercer intervened? The chair shook his head. No. Had you directed Mr. Reed to stop speaking? No. Had you directed security to remove him? No. Mercer shifted his stance. I made a judgment call. The council nodded. That may be your explanation. It should be documented as such. She did not accuse him of corruption. She did not declare misconduct from the microphone. Instead, she turned toward the clerk. Preserve the complete recording, speaker timer log, public comment policy, and tonight's written agenda. I also want statements from the deputies who observed the exchange. Mercer looked at Collins, Holloway, and Brooks. None appeared pleased by what was happening. They also did not look away. Collins spoke first. I will provide a statement. Holloway nodded. So will I. Brooks followed. Yes, ma'am. Mercer gave a slow exhale. Marcus watched him and felt no satisfaction. This was not what Marcus had come for. He had entered the building wanting an explanation for numbers on a county report, not an argument about authority. The county council seemed to understand that. She returned Marcus's folder. Your budget question will be referred to the finance office for a written response. The expenditure discrepancy may have an administrative explanation, but the county should be able to explain its own published records. Marcus accepted the folder. That is all I was asking. Mercer looked at him. You could have handled this differently. Marcus met his eyes. I asked a question during public comment. You kept challenging me. I kept asking what rule I broke. Mercer started to respond, but stopped. Marcus's voice remained calm. Sheriff, I did not come here to fight you. I did not come here to embarrass anyone. I came here for an answer. The room stayed quiet. Marcus looked toward the three deputies. And I did not ask them to choose me over you. Collins's expression softened slightly. We did not. Marcus nodded. I know. Collins glanced at Mercer before continuing. I chose not to take an action I could not explain afterward. Holloway added, same here. Brooks gave a small nod. Mercer looked at them, and for the first time his frustration seemed to give way to something more complicated. The meeting chair switched the microphone back on. Its red light illuminated the polished edge of the podium. Mr. Reed, you will receive the speaking time that remained when the interruption began, plus the time necessary to restate your final question. Marcus stepped back toward the microphone. He opened his folder to the highlighted page. No applause followed. He preferred it that way. Thank you, he said. He looked toward the commissioners rather than Mercer. My question is simple. Was the remaining veteran housing allocation transferred, delayed, or reassigned? And when will the public record reflect that? One commissioner leaned toward her microphone. We do not have the complete answer tonight. We will request it from finance and publish the response. Marcus nodded. Thank you. That was enough. He closed the folder and stepped away from the podium voluntarily. As he returned toward the third row, he passed Collins. Neither spoke. A few feet farther on, he passed Mercer. Marcus did not smile at him or lower his eyes. Mercer watched him return to his seat. The meeting continued, but something in the room had changed. Not because one person had defeated another. The change came from a quieter realization. Authority carried responsibility at the exact moment it was exercised. Later that evening, before the building emptied, the county council formally separated the two matters. The budget discrepancy would receive a financial review. Mercer's decision during the hearing would receive an administrative review based on the recording, policy, and witness statements. Neither review would assume the outcome of the other. Marcus stood near the glass doors as residents departed into the cool night. Collins approached him. Mr. Reed. Marcus turned. Deputy. She paused. You were right about one thing. What was that? Collins looked back toward the hearing room. Before you act, you should know what you are acting on. Marcus held the folder beneath his arm. That applies to all of us. Collins nodded. Behind them, Mercer remained inside speaking quietly with county council while the official recording was secured. Marcus pushed open the glass door and stepped outside. He had no idea what either review would find. For tonight, that uncertainty was exactly where the truth belonged. If this story meant something to you, subscribe to Narralight for more powerful stories that remind us to look beyond appearances, challenge prejudice, and never underestimate the impact of doing what's right. Because sometimes, the smallest act of courage creates the biggest change. Thank you for watching. Remember, the world changes one choice at a time. We'll see you in the next story. 4 weeks later, Marcus Reed entered the same county administration building carrying the same thin folder beneath his arm. Morning rain had washed the sidewalks clean, and pale sunlight now reached through the glass entrance, spreading across the polished lobby floor. Nothing about the building looked different, yet Marcus noticed small things he had ignored before. The quiet click of the security gate, the smell of coffee from an employee's paper cup, the soft scrape of chairs being arranged inside the hearing room. The two reviews had remained separate, exactly as county council had promised. The financial review found that the veteran housing funds had not disappeared. A portion had been temporarily held because a contracted housing provider failed to complete required documentation, while another portion had been reassigned within the approved program categories pending final authorization. The county acknowledged that its public quarterly report had failed to explain those changes clearly and published a corrected accounting. Marcus read every page. The administrative review reached a different question. It examined only what had happened during the hearing: the recording, the timer log, the written policy, the meeting chair's statement, and accounts from Collins, Holloway, Brooks, Mercer, and Marcus. The finding was careful. Mercer had intervened before Marcus's allotted time expired and had ordered his removal without establishing conduct that met the county's standard for removal. The review did not condemn every decision Mercer had ever made, nor did it treat his actions as representing every officer who served beside him. It addressed one individual's choices on one documented evening. Mercer received administrative discipline and was required to complete additional training on public meeting procedures and discretionary authority. The county also changed its hearing protocol so that future removal orders would require a clearly stated basis whenever circumstances allowed. Marcus had read that report too. He felt no celebration when he reached the final page. Accountability was not supposed to feel like revenge. It was supposed to make the next decision harder to misuse. When Marcus entered the hearing room that morning, Collins stood near the rear wall. Holloway was beside the opposite exit. Brooks checked the center aisle. All three were working exactly as before. Marcus appreciated that more than he expected. They had not become heroes because they stepped backward one night. They had simply recognized a boundary and chosen not to cross it without understanding why. Collins saw Marcus and gave him a small nod. Marcus returned it. Nothing more was needed. At the front of the room, the commissioners organized their papers. Mercer was not supervising security that morning. Another supervisor quietly reviewed assignments near the side entrance. Marcus took his familiar seat in the third row and placed his folder on his lap. Inside was the county's corrected financial report and one new page containing 3 questions about how delayed housing funds would reach veterans still waiting for assistance. When public comment began, Marcus listened as residents spoke about road repairs, property assessments, and zoning. One speaker became frustrated and exceeded his time. The meeting chair reminded him to finish. He did. The meeting continued. When Marcus's name was called, he rose and walked toward the microphone. His footsteps crossed the same polished tile where Collins, Holloway, and Brooks had stepped backward 4 weeks earlier. Marcus stopped at the podium. The timer reset to 3 minutes. He opened his folder. "Good morning," he said. "Thank you for publishing the corrected accounting." He looked toward the commissioners. "I have a question about what happens next for the veterans still waiting for housing assistance." No one interrupted him. No one needed to. The chair listened. Collins remained near the rear wall, watching the room rather than Marcus. Sunlight moved slowly across the floor between them. Marcus asked his question, received an answer, and followed with another. When the timer reached 0, a soft electronic tone sounded. Marcus closed his folder. "Thank you for your time." He stepped away from the microphone and returned toward his seat. As he passed the center aisle, he noticed the empty stretch of floor where the confrontation had happened. For weeks earlier, that space had held an argument about who possessed authority. Now it held nothing at all. Marcus understood the difference. Justice had not required anyone to kneel, surrender, or be humiliated. It had required people to remember that power carried an obligation to explain itself. He sat down, placed the folder across his knees, and looked toward the windows. Outside, the clouds were separating. A narrow band of sunlight crossed the glass and reached the aisle, illuminating the polished floor where 3 quiet steps had once changed everything.